Hello from New York, and welcome to the Music News at Noon on the Music Industry City Broadcast Network. This is where we look at the latest headlines in music, tech, and what's going on in the industry. We'll be starting the program in just a few moments, but first, some notes about today's program. Feel free to invite your friends to join in this show, and if you'd like to offer your thoughts on any of today's topics, you can request to join the stage and participate in the discussion, or comment in the chat in the video stream. You can find all of today's headlines on our website, musicindustrycity.com. Just head to the latest Music News at Noon post to see all the articles we referenced during today's broadcast. You can also register for free to get unlimited access to all the articles, news, and events in the city. And you may also watch us live on the video stream right from the website or on the Music Industry City YouTube channel. All right, is everybody ready? We begin our countdown right now.
Hello and welcome. It's great to have you with us on this Monday. I'm Peter Schwing, and here's what's happening. ByteDance prepping its own streaming service. Twitch and music publishers are nearing a deal. ADE going ahead despite curfews. Genius sells for $80 million. And we'll check in with our UK correspondent, Angela Randall, to talk about UK live music's net zero emissions goal by 2030. Plus, our daily Spotify update. Those stories are coming up. But first, let's take a look at this day in music history with Eli Window. Eli.
Thanks so much, Peter, and hello, everyone. Let's take a look at On This Day in Music History. On September 20th, 1973, we lost U.S. singer-songwriter Jim Croce, who on his way to perform his second concert of the day was killed with 5 others when his chartered aircraft hit a tree on takeoff in Louisiana. On this date, 2020, just last year, we lost American musician and singer Tommy DeVito, died aged 92 after contracting COVID-19. He is best known as a founding member, vocalist, and lead guitarist of the Four Seasons, in memory. Moving on to birthdays today. On September 20th, 1960, Robert Wiggins was born, Grandmaster Flash, and the Furious Five. On this date, 1966, born Nuno Bettencourt from Extreme. And born on this date, 1967, Matthew and Gunnar Nelson, twin sons of 60s singer Ricky Nelson. Born this date, 1968, Ben Shepherd from Soundgarden. Happy birthday. Moving on to this day in music history. On September 20th, 1970, Jim Morrison of The Doors was acquitted on charges of lewd behavior, but was found guilty of exposing himself during a concert at the Dinner Key Auditorium in Coconut Grove a year and a half earlier. At his trial in the Dade County Courthouse in Miami, Judge Goodman sentenced Morrison to 6 months hard labor and a $500 or £270 fine for public exposure and 60 days hard labor for profanity. Sentence was appealed, but Morrison was never brought to trial, as he would die in Paris, France on July 3rd, 1971. And on this date, September 20th, 1980, Kate Bush scored her first UK #1 album with Never Forever. It was the first ever album by a British female solo artist to top the UK album charts, as well as being the first album by any female solo artist to enter the chart at #1. Congratulations to Kate Bush. Great day in music history. And that's it for On This Day in Music History. Back over to you, Peter.
All right, thank you for that, Eli. To set the stage for a discussion, we provide informed perspectives and commentary on current headlines. If you'd like to offer your thoughts on one of today's topics, you can request to join the stage. I'd also like to say hi to everyone viewing our show on our video live stream on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and directly from the musicindustrycity.com website. To stay up to date on this and other programming, you can sign up at musicindustrycity.com for more news, articles, and events. And with that, let's get to it. All right, and this from Digital Music News. The article is TikTok parent ByteDance reportedly preps streaming service following Tencent Music's exclusive license penalty. Earlier this month, Tencent Music nixed its exclusive music deals to comply with an antitrust penalty from the Chinese government. Now, TikTok parent company ByteDance is reportedly preparing to launch a competing music streaming platform. ByteDance reportedly intends to launch the music streaming app, tentatively called Philo and referred to as Luna internally. They're going to launch it in China sometime later this year, according to Google's translation of a Mandarin language report from 36KR. The concise report also notes that ByteDance's streaming service will utilize a tried and proven algorithm from the onset in an effort to reach consumers, while the initially mentioned invalidation of Tencent's exclusive copyright may bring new opportunities as ByteDance looks to, quote, develop its domestic music business. Tencent Music, which operates the QQ Music, Kugao Music, and Kuo Music streaming services, boasted 66 million paid users as of the second quarter in 2021, along with 623 million online music mobile monthly active users. Additionally, the order to give up exclusive music contracts has left in place certain deals with indie acts and labels, including a 30-day exclusive release period for new songs. We've seen in the last year, I don't even know how many live streaming platforms or in the last 2 years really come to light. Now, so this is adding another one, and they already own a few. And what are we going to see? My thoughts on this is we're seeing all this expansion in the last few years, and what follows expansion? Consolidation. And we're already starting to see that. Apple last week announced their acquisition of PrimePhonic, which was more for classical music listening. And, you know, we see some of these niche platforms. And there's also, we're going to cover another one tomorrow about another local live streaming platform that is being rolled out. And that's local to the U.S., actually. So with that being said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. And this ByteDance and Tencent, I mean, they've been going at it for a while, so it's going to be a battle over there. All right. This is from Billboard. Twitch and music publishers nearing licensing deal. Does this mean I'm not gonna be able to do my rants anymore? Because I've been really vocal about Twitch for the last few months, with rightfully so. It's heading in the right direction. So this one starts out. Twitch and the National Music Publishers Association, NMPA, are close to signing a music licensing agreement. The two parties have come to an agreement in principle, although nothing binding has been signed, according to a source familiar with the situation who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Another source in the publishing industry says that a deal may be announced next week, but that it had not yet been signed. Twitch has deals with performing rights organizations, which includes ASCAP and BMI, but it does not have music licensing deals with Universal, Sony, Warner, or any of their respective publishing companies. When Twitch users stream music in their videos, Twitch technically has no liability for any resulting copyright infringement as long as it responds to rights holders' takedown requests per the DMCA and its safe harbor provision for platforms which host user-uploaded content. Platforms licensing music usually deal with the recording side first, then tackle the more complex publishing side, but it's unclear where negotiations between Twitch and record labels stand. Behind the scenes, executives have been complaining about Twitch's frequent promises that a deal is coming soon. Quote, "It's been next month for almost years now," says a record label source. That is from Billboard, and Yeah, if anybody has had any experience with Twitch or takedown notices, I mean, this was last year, over a year ago, was when the first wave of DMCA notices came, and Twitch did not handle this in a very positive way. They started blaming the content creators, the greedy music industry. Well, okay, there's that. But they also were blaming their own content creators, and they was putting their content creators against the music content creators in a battle. And they were saying, oh, we'll give you tools so you can delete. They weren't addressing the cause. They were trying to stick Band-Aids on things that didn't stick. So hopefully I won't have to go on my Twitch tirades anymore, and this will get cleared up with hopefully by the end of the year, and then we'll just find something else. All right, and this moving on, this one from Hip Hop DX. Joyner Lucas turns Karen civil wrath on music label executive Steve Stoute. So this has been interesting. It's been going, what's occurred in the last 24, 48 hours. Twitter is on fire about this on Joyner's posts. To give you a little background here is, he had a civil suit against, a suit against Karen Civil for alleged shady business practices, and that was airing that out on September 17th on Friday. He's now turned his wrath on longtime music executive Steve Stoute, who says recently served him with a cease and desist letter over copyright infringement. He took to Twitter. I'll read some of them here. Quote, "You raised $50 million." This is directed at Steve. "You raised $50 million from Apple to help artists in their careers at United Masters, but you just paid lawyers thousands to send me, an independent artist, a copyright infringement for saying the words, quote, record label in your pocket. How are you acting any different than a major label?" So another interesting backstory is that Joyner Lucas also uses United Masters and has met with Steve Stoute and the team about this in the past. So not about this particular circumstance, but he had an app, and that's where the problem is that his app is claiming this, and he showed this app to United Masters. He goes on to say he included screenshots of the cease and desist letter, which reads in part, quote, "United Masters considers such use of the mark record label in your pocket a blatant violation of United Masters rights. Not only is Tully app using the exact mark record label in your pocket, but the record label in your pocket market is also being used in connections with goods and services that directly conflict and or compete with the goods and or services offered by United Masters under the record label in your pocket mark. And the United Masters app touts its service as, quote, a record label in your pocket, while Lucas has used something similar. Still, Lucas has questions and accused Stoute of buying the trademark to the phrase to stop the hustle. So if anybody deals with copyright, intellectual property, I'd love for you to join the stage. If there are any thoughts on this. I mean, this is really interesting. The big issue here that it goes much deeper, and if you follow this, it talks about he showed the Tully app to United Masters. And I don't know if he was using that brand, the slogan at that time, but it is interesting to see this. And it also has opened up, because we've talked about United Masters for a while now, and even going back over a year on the program, and people don't seem to know what United Masters actually does. And he's also posted on Twitter asking people what their experience with United Masters has been. Have they gotten any deals through it? And there's been a lot of complaints and people saying they couldn't even get releases, or the releases have been held. So he's really stirring the pot there, and it's leaning a little negative sentiment towards United Masters. But of course, that's what his goal is. But if anybody has any other information, feel free to jump on stage.
Yeah, I mean, my knowledge of United Masters is that they're basically just a distribution service. When I worked for the label, or when I ran a label in LA, they were just sort of they were just among the other plenty of distributors that you could choose from. But the term that I think the whole thing that bugs me the most about this story is the use of the words "record label in your pocket." I mean, I don't mean to be judgy, but it's not even all that great of a tagline for them to be going through all of this rigmarole about it. I suspect there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, that accusations have been made, obviously, of the app potentially being copied without a deal being made between them, or maybe there was a meeting that went awry and they couldn't get together on it, and that's what's happened here. It just does look very, very petty. Mia, you've come up to join us. Is there something you wanted to contribute?
Yeah, I was actually in the Clubhouse room. He actually aired this out first last night in a Clubhouse room. So I heard what he mentioned. So he was explaining like basics of like the app that he was building. Basically, he mentioned that it was like from a producer standpoint, but he's not a distributor and he didn't want to get into distribution. So he started having deals with United Masters to kind of outsource that portion of his app. So he's saying that he went through several meetings explaining all of his ideas and all of his side, and no one from United Masters rolled out any of their information or what they could offer him. Basically, he was giving all of this information to them, and after those meetings happened, then he got a cease and desist. So he's basically saying he aired out all of his business and all of his ideas for his app, which did not cover distribution. It was a different part of like the production process and stuff like that. But he's basically saying they found out all his ideas, and then instead of doing a deal with him, they sent him a cease and desist, basically.
Yeah, that was part, and again, different diving into these because it's a few media outlets have picked this up already, and we'll probably see more. So some cover that specifically, and that's what I was referencing back. It's like, yeah, they had meetings, and then you get this, and the interesting thing is, well, for United Masters to say record label in your pocket, well, are they a record label or are they a distribution company? Are they an app with a distribution company that's behaving like a record label? So there's confusion on that part as well.
I will say this. When I heard Joyner Lucas say that, I was confused because I've been on United Masters website and they definitely have that on their website already. So I don't know if they added that afterwards, but that's definitely a coin that they use. So I was confused on why he was mad about the cease and desist, because they definitely use that slogan. So it would make sense if he was using that slogan for them to send a cease and desist. But another thing that he said, and I'll move to audience after this because I don't want to overpower the conversation, but another thing he said was, and this is true, that for the higher echelon of like artists that United Masters works with, they do offer traditional label deals. So essentially they do like kind of an a la carte service with the distribution, and then certain levels they do more label services. But for the top tier artists, they do offer traditional label deals with advances. That's why they coined the term, and it's been on their website. So yeah.
Yeah, and it is in the test system. So United Masters has trademarked it. It's officially an active trademark. So it just kind of goes back to the initial use. So that's, and if United Masters is absolutely in their rights if they had this trademarked and they were already using this before Joyner was. So we're going to have to see how this plays out, and it comes down to a little bit on the timing, like who was using it first. And that's I don't know a lot about copyright and intellectual property law. Actually, I don't know anything about it, so I'm not going to speculate, but I do know one little thing is when applying for a trademark or for for intellectual property, it's going to ask you when was the first use date I forgot what the terminology was, but they ask you for first use date. So thank you for that, Mia. That's a great heads up to add into that. With that, we're gonna stick another copyright issue right back to back, and this is Mr. Eazi versus Mr. Eazi. And this one is from Dancehall Mag. So Mr. Eazi with the Y versus Mr. Eazi with the ZI. Dancehall artist says it is a copyright issue after New York show. So dancehall artist Mr. Eazi, that's with a Y, has sought to reassure fans that his non-appearance on a recent show in New York was not deliberate, as he was never booked for the event, which was actually headlined by Afrobeat star Mr. Eazi, E-A-Z-I. So Mr. Eazi, with the Y, quoted saying, "There is another artist who is using my name and copyright mark, and their use or threatened use of said mark is confusingly similar to my mark, and that is the main issue. This is causing a confusion and a conflict. People are going to shows expecting to see me. My fans are upset, and it's very confusing." He added, "The whole issue is causing irreparable damages to my brand while confusing the public. I have been in contact with a UK lawyer and I have instructed them to tell these parties to immediately cease and desist from the use of a brand which is too similar to my stage name." Here's a little background on this. Eazi, that's Eazi, is a 30-year-old singer who started his music career with the 2013 mixtape About to Blow and is best known for Leg Over, Dance For Me, and some others. He has 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Meanwhile, Mr. Eazi, with a Y, who is 51 years old, his real name is Ian Dyer, began his dancehall career more than 20 years ago. And so he just ends this with, "Please bear with me as I sort out the unfortunate circumstances of my name being stolen by another artist who continues to illegally use it commercially."
Oh, the irony of two guys claiming to be Mr. Eazi making things so very, very hard for one another.
That's exactly it. All right. And with that being said, let's check in with Eli Window. Eli.
All right, Peter, thanks so much. Thanks for checking in with me. And we want to invite you to check in with your friends at this time. Don't forget that you can invite your friends to join the conversation just the same way that you can by raising your hand to join the stage or by commenting in the chat if you're watching us on the video live stream. Make sure that you follow your co-hosts so that you'll be alerted when they are live. You can also watch the video stream right from our website and access other content and articles, including our weekday 5-minute music industry news podcast, which keeps you up to date on items that may not be covered here, such as new releases, tours, musical chairs, business, and tech news, all in 5 minutes or less. We'd like to thank you again for tuning into the Music News at Noon each and every Monday through Thursday at 12 Eastern, right here on Music Industry City Broadcast Network. Now we continue with our headlines. Net zero emissions by 2030. UK live music sector launches climate campaign. With more on this headline, we go to our UK correspondent, Angela Randall. Angela?
Thanks, Eli. The UK's live music sector launched an industry campaign to deliver climate action, setting its commitment to reach net zero emissions by the year 2030. The campaign is spearheaded by Live Green, the sustainability arm of live music umbrella trade body, Live, officially formed at the beginning of 2021. The campaign, quote, builds on significant efforts across the sector to boost sustainability, ranging from the end of single-use plastic at festivals to sector-wide efforts to reduce the environmental impact of touring, end quote, according to the announcement. The group intends to, quote, identify and signpost how live music businesses can accelerate their transition to a low-carbon future, setting out a roadmap for action in line with the Paris Agreement on climate change. End quote. All 13 association members of Live have ratified the Beyond Zero Declaration, a voluntary sector-specific commitment to deliver measurable and targeted action on climate change, with the ultimate aim of reaching net zero emissions by 2030. Signatories to the declaration agree to work with Live Green to set reduction targets and reduce operational and business travel greenhouse gas, GHG emissions, reporting on progress annually. Next, develop a net zero roadmap and action plan, taking responsibility for actions in energy, waste, procurement, transport, food, and governance. Then, understand and define emissions with value chains, follow best practice to affect change in areas outside of direct control, and collaborate with suppliers and clients to reduce them. And ensure staff undertake climate education and have ongoing commitment to knowledge sharing with the live music sector and beyond. Finally, the initiative will also provide research expertise and cross-industry innovation in order to support the sector's transition to a regenerative future, the campaign announcement states. There's a lot more in the article on Polestar if you'd like to dive in. I suspect this is an initiative that's taking place across all sectors of the UK in media, in sports and music. Yesterday, in related news, the Tottenham Hotspur versus Chelsea football match was the first net zero football match to be held in the UK, and it included transport, which were I think biofuel buses, they call them, and they had all sorts of recyclable and reusable materials for refreshments. even some of the goals looked recycled. Haha, just kidding. But it does look as though they are really moving towards getting large scale events to be more environmentally friendly and doing their part in keeping with the Paris Agreement. And this is the equivalent of that on the music side. So kudos to the industry for getting behind it and for heading towards net zero emissions by 2030. Back to you guys.
Yeah, this is absolutely great initiative. I mean, this across the board, across the world, we do have to really start digging in. I mean, because this, we've talked about climate change for years and years, and now like the latest reports that were coming out, I mean, it's devastating. And you're going to hear a lot more about bringing awareness to climate change and making things better because, you know, these are the scientists and everybody that have put out these reports, and that last report that came out that was like hundreds of pages. I mean, it was like thousands and thousands of researchers went into these, and it doesn't look good. So we really need to do something. I mean, this is great to see. You know, hopefully it'll catch on, especially through the EU and United States as well. All right, we're going to stay with Polestar. And this is the Amsterdam dance event to go ahead despite curfews. And if you've been following along here in the news, we've been talking about the Netherlands, and they've had some protests, and there's lawsuits in there. So this one is covering it a little bit more. The Dutch government's latest set of COVID restrictions announced on September 14th brings back a curfew lasting from midnight to 6 a.m., but that's not going to stop the Amsterdam Dance Event Festival from going ahead on October 13th through the 17th. The early morning hours are arguably the busiest for dance events like ADE, and although the event's directors are baffled by the new set of regulations, according to the statement, the ADE team sees no objection against a solid and safe ADE festival in accordance with the current restrictions. Details of what this may look like will be worked out between ADE organizers and Amsterdam City Council in the next coming days. One requirement will be COVID health checks at the gates. The Conference of Amsterdam Dance Event has already been canceled, so there's no conference, but they are going ahead with the festival. Months of regulatory uncertainties paired with the strict conditions surrounding international travel made planning and the realization impossible. The Dutch festival and event industry organized 2 protests, and these marches were on August 21st and September 11th under the Unmute Us banner, the first of which got attended by 70,000 protesters. However, the government failed to change its stance towards live music events. According to the Unmute Us organizers, they say it continues to measure with a double standard when it comes to sporting events, for instance, and still fails to understand that most events that don't run at full capacity aren't economically viable. And that's another, the latest set is they're saying 75%. That's the maximum cap. And the question is, like, what is the difference between 75% cap and 100% cap? Like, that's what the live music sector is asking the government that just put those mandates in. So this is why, you know, the organizers of Unmute Us, Apenkui Events, ID&T, and Mojo are taking the government to court. All right, moving on to digital music news. It's an update from earlier this year. SoundCloud announced that they are switching over to fan-powered royalty system, and where they're saying they would claim that artists will make more money per stream than on other platforms such as Spotify and Apple. So here's an update, and this is from Portishead. Says SoundCloud's fan-powered royalty system has boosted their payments by 500%. And upon announcing its plans to adopt the fan-powered royalty system earlier this year, Berlin-headquartered SoundCloud explains that the industry-first pivot would see revenue from user subscription payments or viewed advertisements reach the artists, instead of pooling income and then distributing royalties as a portion of total streams to the benefit of ultra-popular acts that rack up billions of plays. The system centers on compensating creators with the funds fronted by their own fans. Portishead, which boasts 2 million monthly Spotify streams and has racked up more than 100 million plays on the song Glory Box, promptly came out in support of SoundCloud's integrating a fan-powered model. Quote, "This is great news for up-and-coming musicians and artists work out outside popular music genres, the band wrote in a social media post. They said, "We also look forward to working with SoundCloud in the future." Making good on this intention to work with SoundCloud, Portishead, which recently celebrated the 27th anniversary of Dummy, one of the greatest albums out there in this genre. I think Angela will agree with me on that one. Released a cover of ABBA's SOS exclusively on SoundCloud. The said release marked the first time that the track was commercially available on a major streaming platform. As initially mentioned, SoundCloud and Portishead have now revealed that the SOS cover earned north of 6 times as much as it would have under a pro rata model like that utilized by Spotify and most other music streaming services. Good news to see that this is working. Angela.
Yeah, totally in agreement. Oh, sorry. It caught you up there for a second. You sounded like a robot on my side. Yeah, I totally agree about the album, and now I'm now tempted to listen to Dummy on SoundCloud just so that they get the money for it, as opposed to it going to Drake or somebody else I don't listen to that gets a big portion of it elsewhere. Not that there's anything wrong with Drake. You know, if I'm going to listen to Glory Box, I want it to go to them.
Exactly. Right on. Yeah. And, this is an interesting model to see how it will work out. I mean, people have been talking about this since, wow, we're in 2021. So, a decade ago. This has been a conversation, this fan-powered royalty style has been for a decade. And a lot of these companies have said, oh, it's too complex to implement. It's a computer. You put the program in, you compute it. And it's financial transactions. You know how many financial transactions just took place in the last 3 seconds? I think there's enough programmers out there to be able to, show that this works and it's possible. And SoundCloud is doing that. All right. With that being said, we're going over to Complete Music Update, and this is lyric site Genius sells for $80 million. That sounds great, but there's something added to this. Lyric site Genius, formerly Rap Genius, has been bought by a California-based media holding company for $80 million. The new buyer, Media Lab, has celebrated acquiring the music site by making some people redundant. We're restructuring the way in which original content is produced at Genius, and as part of that, some very talented individuals on the content production teams were let go, the buyer said in a statement. Typical, usual with a lot of any kind of mergers, acquisitions. But according to Bloomberg, the sale of Genius confirms that the site, although still popular with its core audience, hasn't quite lived up to the hype it enjoyed in investment circles a few years back. Citing Pitchfork, Bloomberg said that the Genius's price tag of $80 million represents less than what it raised over the years in venture capital. The Newswire adds, quote, because the company's obligations to its preferred shareholders exceeded the sale price, investors won't be paid out in full. Genius finalized the deal to sell its assets this week with $60 million paid on closing and $20 million paid in the next 2 years. Does anybody here use Genius? I like to find out the story. It's like user generated. It's almost like the Wikipedia of song lyrics in a sense. Like what did this song mean? And somebody puts it in. Sometimes you get the author. I think Rivers Cuomo from Weezer has jumped in and actually said, no, this lyric, yeah, I was up at 2:00 in the morning. I don't even know what it's about or something like that. But does anybody really use it? And for other services? All right. So let's stick with
Don came up just a second ago. Did you have something to add?
Oh yeah, I use Genius all the time because I not only love music, but I love production, and I like really dissecting a song. Like when I hear something, I'm like, who did this? I was just recently listening to Aaliyah's album from start to finish the other day, and Bernie Grudman, I want to say was his name. He engineered that album, and I did some research on him, and like I really loved the way he did that because most music I listen to it for a long time, and it'll pierce my ears. I feel like I could listen to that album forever, and I would never like get a headache from it or anything. So Genius, if you scroll down far enough, it tells you everything. It tells you who's all the writers on the song. It gives you all the credits. And for me, who really likes stuff like that, Genius is really a good app for that. So I love it.
Right on, Don. Thank you for that. Hey, are you familiar with Jaxsta, with the Jaxsta? They've been building out a platform with all the credits as well.
Jaxter, can you tell me like how to spell that? I'll search right now.
I believe it's Jaxsta.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, check it out. They're
Yeah, it's
doing.
kind of like it's an aggregator like Discogs and Music Brains and that. It's it's an up and comer too. It's quite good.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, it's going to be great for that. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Excellent. All right, moving on. We are going to say with complete music update. And again, all the articles are, you can get the links to them if you want to do a deeper dive at musicindustrycity.com. Click on the today's Music News at Noon post, and you'll get all the links. All right, streamer Yout refiles its lawsuit against the record industry, argues it's pretty easy to rip from YouTube without its app. We were covering this for a while. It was getting tense. The RIAA going after them, shutting them down. The court said, yeah. Yout was like, no. Then they did something else, and I mean, it was fun. It was entertaining, to say the least. Stream ripping site Yout has refiled its lawsuit against the Recording Industry Association of America, again setting out its argument that its technology does not circumvent any technological protection measures put in place by YouTube when it helps users to rip audio from the video platform. Previously, the RIAA tried to have Yout delisted from the Google search engine. They based the allegation that Yout had violated the Digital Millennium Copyright Act by circumventing, quote, YouTube's rolling cipher, a technical protection measure that protects the label's works on YouTube from unauthorized copying and downloading. Such circumvention, the record industry trade group claimed, breached a provision in the DMCA that, quote, prohibits circumventing technical protection measure. So they're just talking cipher, all this tech stuff, and this kind of leans into what we were talking about earlier with watermarking and all that. And in the morning show, we were talking about some of that. All right, so however, Yout has hit back by suing the RIAA. The record trade group had misrepresented its services when trying to get Google to delist the website, the stream ripping setup argued. And in doing so, the RIAA had damaged its entirely legitimate business. At the heart of Yout's lawsuit is the claim that it's actually pretty easy. So this is their defense. It's actually pretty easy to download video or audio files from YouTube using the developer tools in the Chrome browser. Indeed, the lawsuit itself includes a 12-step guide to doing just that and links to some online articles containing similar guides. Therefore, it adds, its technology isn't circumventing any cleaner content protection technology. It is just simplifying a process that anyone can do via a browser window. I'm sure there's some precedents, some cases that, well, if anybody can do it, we just make it easier. There's got to be a precedent for that hill to die on. Eli's kind of making faces back here, like, what, huh?
Who would ever do that? Really? Who? What kind of a person?
Exactly. All right. We also have fun on this last article before we go into the Spotify spot. This one is from Brooklyn Vegan. Cassette Week. Yes. If you still own a cassette player. Cassettes made the biggest comeback since 2003. And, they're still a thing, in case you didn't know. By the way, 8 tracks are also still produced. So if you're into that, 8 tracks. And with vinyl outgrowing numbers that it's been in the past. This one, Cassette Week, announces 2021 exclusive titles and the celebration of the original portable recording format founded by Tapehead City will happen on October 10th through the 16th at participating independent record stores throughout the U.S. They've just announced this year's exclusive titles you can get on tape, and they include Bad Brains, The Good Life, Pylon, Bim Saka Bim, Bim Scala Bim, The Slackers, and a lot more. And you can check out the full list of exclusive Cassette Week 2021 releases and participating stores. And for more info, you can go to their website at cassetteweek.com. All right, and with that being said, it's our favorite time of the show.
Big green dot hits the spot.
All right, the big green dot, it does hit the spot. It's time for our Spotify spot, where we take a look at the latest updates from the streaming service. But before we do that, we want to check in with your weather. Mixed weather report and update for many listeners and members of Music Industry City. Joy and pain, sunshine and rain. Over to you, Peter, for the Spotify spot.
Right on. We had a little bit of the sunshine and rain over the weekend. A little rain, a little touch of that on Friday, and then it was sunshine. So had a good weekend. Hope everybody else did too. Right, this is Spotify. Partners with Headspace for mindfulness and meditation. You'll soon be able to get a combined subscription to both services. Separately, it costs $10 per month. For a package, you pay $14.99. This is in euros. The service is available immediately in Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Denmark. And in a few weeks, the package will also arrive in the UK and the Netherlands. And by the way, Spotify and Headspace remain separate services. It's not that you can listen to Headspace training programs in the Spotify app. However, you can log into both Headspace and Spotify with the same data. The collaboration came because Spotify noticed that users create many playlists with the aim of reducing stress. So think playlists that help increase focus when studying or rainforest sounds that help you fall asleep. In total, there are 22 million such playlists on Spotify, and Headspace is said to have 10 million users. I mean, that's a good move. I mean, the whole mindfulness, wellness, I mean, that has taken off. A lot of these production houses have multiple companies that are just cranking out these sounds, and it's of course Spotify is going to be like, well, we can do that too, so let's just partner up with another company. And watch this, maybe like my Headspace will eventually be acquired by Spotify. For all we know, the way they're going, they're like, hey, this is cool. Let's test it out and see what happens. So with that, that's it. That is the reads. Let's open up the stage to our audience. I'm going to put just about 3 minutes on the clock here. If you'd like to offer your thoughts or comments about today's topic, now is your chance to join the conversation.
That's correct. If you'd like to offer your thoughts on any of today's topics or you can request to join the stage, or you can post something in the chat. Remember also that you can find all of today's show headlines at musicindustrycity.com. Any final thoughts from any of our listeners or viewers today?
I don't want to be a party pooper, but I still don't get the resurgence of cassettes. Maybe it's because I lived an entire decade plus with cassettes. I mean, more power to them if they're going to have fun, celebrating the medium that once was. But anything that's exclusively on cassettes, I can't. I just want to hear it. Let me hear it. I don't even have anything in my house that can play CDs at this stage. So I do hope that we don't go back to cassettes only for a lot of things, because otherwise it will get missed in my life.
Right on. I mean,
well,
go on.
Go ahead, Peter.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, Angela, just quickly, I know that we can discuss all day the fidelity differences between cassettes and other media, but I will say that one of my favorite things, although it's rather petty, one of my favorite things about cassettes is that any album jacket that came with a cassette, if you wanted to look at the whole thing, it came in an accordion, and you could unravel it like a big string of paper dolls and just read this whole big, long, giant cassette jacket, because it had to be folded so small to fit into the cassette itself. So I know that's quite petty and has nothing to do with the fidelity that we're talking about between media, but that accordion, gigantic, 2-foot-long unraveled CVS receipt of a cassette booklet was always one of my favorite things about that crazy medium.
12-year-old me completely commiserates with that.
Any other final thoughts today? If we don't have any takers, we're going to just go ahead and move on to wrap up our show today. And we want to thank you so much for tuning into the Music News at Noon. Thank you so much to everyone who joined our conversation today and contributed your thoughts and insights. We hope that we're going to see you again here each and every Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Please feel free to spread the word. Visit musicindustrycity.com to stay up to date on all the current happenings in the music industry. You can post in the community and access other amazing resources. My name is Eli Window, and on behalf of our UK correspondent, Angela Randall, I want to thank you so much for being part of our broadcast today. And now, Peter, any final thoughts as we wrap today's broadcast?
Right on. Thank you for that. Yeah, and thank you for everybody who joined in and for everybody that comes and hangs out in here. This was going to be a short week, only news today and tomorrow, and then Wednesday we're going to be off Wednesday through. Hey, I put that was the 3-minute timer. We're good. We are good. All right. So so we're doing a short week, but then we'll be back full 4 days a week on the news and the morning show, always Monday through Friday. And yeah, cassette tapes. Just remember listening off the radio. It's like, hey, how do you? I need to get that song, and I've you push record just as you're walking out the door to go to school because you hoped Z100 played that song, and then you'd go back and have to listen to the 120-minute tape cassette that you had auto flip and auto record, and then you had to find the song, and then you had to pause it, rewind back, get the pencil out to rewind the tape a little bit, press that, get the other cassette, cue that up to make your mixtape, and send that to your girlfriend, boyfriend, or whoever you were making your special mixtape for. All right, and that does it for the Music at News at Noon on this Monday from New York. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. I'm Peter Schwing. For all my colleagues, have a rocking day. Cheers.
Cheerio.
Cheerio. Everyone, thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. I hope you have an incredible day today.